Välkommen till röstbrevlådan. Tala in ett meddelande efter tonen.
Welcome to the FNRad Snowboarding Podcast. I'm Eric Trollson.
Wow, this is a great way to climb mountains and come down, you know.
For our reception, our Vulcan buddies brought acid.
I was dropping in and snaking people and causing shit.
I remember calling on the radio and I'm like, Brushy, where are you? You know,
Greg would do the tricks. He was kind of like the Tony Hawk of snowboarding.
I mean, people just really gravitated to the backcountry.
I liked Greg, but he didn't really care for me too much because I was a little shithead.
Our guest this week is Johan Olofsson from Sweden, whose breakaway part in TV5 changed the game forever. People still talk about it to this day. He brought technical freestyle to another level up in Alaska. Guys like Travis Rice owe a lot to the lines that Johan scoped out and did way back when. We caught up with Johan at his new resort that he's running with his friend and fellow pro snowboarder Ingemar Backman in northern Sweden.
Yeah, I have to find a place where I have, let's see, I'm going to have to charge the phone, I'm going to have Wi-Fi, oh fucking hell, like, not surrounded by so many people. Where could that be? Let's do this. I'll sit in the lobby bar. I'm down at the ski resort that we're running down here. How about that? Do you hear me now? My first board was a Burton Cruiser bought in 1988 by my dad. It was laying underneath the Christmas tree.
So did your family take you skiing a lot as a kid?
Not really, you know, like, I mean, in northern Sweden, everybody skis on occasion. But Dad was more into ice hockey, and my older brother was playing ice hockey a lot. That whole ice hockey soccer thing, you know. And actually, like, I was doing BMX. Hitting jumps and stuff like that. A lot of my friends were doing skateboarding, but I did a little bit, but I just thought that the conditions were too shitty where I grew up. I was like, I catch way more air on my BMX bike. Like, I don't see any point, really. In the early days, it was like, you didn't know shit. You were just riding around the streets and fucking finding a dirt pile and putting a track in it and trying to link it into some ditch or something, finding trannies and, you know, making what do you call those, like number plates for your front, for your steering. You were fucking, BMX was the shit. I think it was the same era as E.T. and all that stuff, you know. Like, since I was a young kid, I don't know where the hell I seen it, but must have been like some kind of like Beach Boys album of a cover with a surfboard or something. I seen it when I was a little kid, and that's when I saw a snowboard the first time in a magazine. I'm like, that's the closest to surfing you will ever get on it. Then we were just snowboarding like for 4 or 5 years, I would say, before even starting to do any competitions or. I mean, it was even hard to get snowboard movies, you know. Like, they came in like 13 times copied the VHS tapes, you know. By the time you see them, like, oh man, I wish the intro was working. But you know, at midsection, you could actually see it. Like, that's how it was growing up in northern Sweden with, you know, in '88 snowboarding and like early '90s. It wasn't really snowboard happening, but as a lot of kids started to snowboard, and we were just kind of like guessing and shredding and having fun, and we didn't know much of the outside world. You know, it was like as it is almost now, you know, like everyone had like different skills. Some were more technical and some were like not afraid of going big, and somehow, you know, like I had a little bit of the both, you know, like technical and like to go big. So I think that's the winning ticket I had in the beginning. There was a contest in Rick Stranson, like Swedish championships, and me and some friends from my hometown, we went up there to enter the contest, and we never rode a fucking pipe before, so and we were completely starstruck by the older shredders from Sweden. So we fucking sat there and just looked at the pipe the whole practice through. We didn't dare to drop in. And then contest run, I did 3 frontside airs in a row. Yeah, just pumping speed on the backside hit, and then another frontside. Their names are like Klaus and Oscar and Pontus and Ronne Stam, and there was like one generation older shredders than us. Let's say like me and Ingemar Backman. We were sort of like the next generation Swedish riders, but there was a generation before us as well, who was sort of kind of like in the same era as Haken and so on. Yeah, that was my first sponsor for sure, and that was like a national Burton, you know, like B grade, you know, like get your free gear and you know all that. But from there it went pretty fast. It kind of just a couple of years on national level, and then World Cup, and then to European level, and then pretty much, I mean, it went from European to you know, global team rider Burton at once. You know, I was still doing competing and pipes and big airs just started to appear, like air style in Innsbruck. Like I was there the first year just watching, and the second year I was invited. So and sort of that same era, everything started to like go into more global, professional. You know, we were still sort of like in school a little bit. We were like, you know, 18, 19, but yeah, me and Ingemar, we just quit school without saying anything, and we never came back. We ditched school. I grew up snowboarding a shitload, not knowing anything was going on. We were just snowboarding. And then the whole competition scene started, and we were doing pipes and big airs and everything, and we were just thriving on that. Like, this is the ticket, we can become pro, let's do it. So we were like, even before, we were good freestylers and stuff like that, but like we became, you know, damn good freestylers, like, you know, busting tricks and everything. But I had that background of just riding. I love to ride. I just love to carve and just slash, you know. I still today slash. I can go on forever, you know. Like that's my retirement. I still haven't done the perfect slash. When ISF turned into FIS over the Olympics, I told Burton that, no, hey man, like, Haken is not doing it. I am not supporting it either, you know. And then they said, okay, go over to Hatchet, start filming. All right. And, you know, of course, they thought, you know, I came over there, and they're like, okay, another Scando, you know, kicker kid. And I was like, oh, fuck you guys. I'm not a kicker kid. You know, like, fucking, like, I can ride anything. I just wanted to prove them that I was not only kicker kid. And then Mike got stoked. He's like, I wrote a few lines and this and that, and then he was like, holy fuck, man, well, you can actually snowboard some other stuff. I'm like, well, hell yeah, man. Like, I only do kickers for money. That's sort of like how, like, when, you know, coming into Alaska first year was like, you know, like really fresh out of the freestyle scene, but still a lot of miles just riding underneath my board. Because we went up, you know, from my hometown, you know, when I was 13 or something like that, I was allowed to take the train to Riksgränsen over day and go up there and ride for a day. And that place was like mind-blowing for me as a kid, you know, like, and that is, you know, like a lot of riding, you know, it's just, you know, bombing down different part of the mountain to like catch air on another section and this and that. So that was the sort of the style of riding that we did. It was like the whole kicker scene was sort of like a the mid-range of snowboarding. Like it's something that kind of like just came along as a competing aspect. I mean, for sure, like there was a couple of years that when you just traveled with like dirt bagging and just noodles and oatmeal and stealing tip from the tables and stuff like that, you know. And then into the pro scene, and then you're like, all right, this is pretty good, and you know, like it was like the dream come through, but it was also like kind of surreal, you know. Like I think at the moment you didn't really understand what you were doing, and like you just went with it, you know. You get in that kind of mode that if they are not ready after you hiked for that 2.5 hours and you're trying to keep the picture in your head of the line and everything, then you're like, hey guys, I gotta drop in before I forget what I'm doing, you know. Like if I wait any longer, I'm gonna lose the concentration and I might be in trouble, you know. Like it's like I gotta go. And you get cold, like if you're up there and you're ready and you're fucking starting to freeze up and get stiff, and you're all of a sudden you're thinking about, you know, completely different things, and then you're like, oh fuck, dude, I am on a fucking, you know, because you're filming, you pick the gnarliest line you can see, you know. And so once you're there, you just want to be ready, and you know. So sometimes it was like that. I dropped in, I'm like, okay guys, I gotta go. I always said that you know, snowboarding is good practice for the real event. You know, every run, every line you take is a good practice for the next one. Then also you keep it on that level that, you know, it's practice for the big one. It's the for the big one. You know, like you keep yourself in that safe level that. Don't do what you can't handle, because you don't have so many lucky tickets, you know. Like, you know, Dave Hatchet, he dropped in some fucking big shit, and you were like, all right, man. Snowboarders are also doing it, because before that it was like Doug Coombs, and like there's a bunch of like ski guides up there. They were just badass, you know, badass motherfuckers, and they rode some shit that we were like, holy fuck, man, you're just fucking shredding it and sending it, and you know exactly how the slough is going to go, and you plan that shit. Like, all right, okay, let's do the same, you know. Like, Coombs was gnarly. Dude, you fly into a valley, you look at it, you take a Polaroid, and within 5 minutes you're on top of the line, and then it's go, you know. And you never ride a line twice. I never rode, like, any of my film lines are like first run, and I never rode them again after that. It's one time only, then you move on, you know. Håkan grew up in the same movement. He also filmed a lot of lines that one time only, you probably never get to ride it again. And I'm saying the same thing, you know, even though Travis and these guys has like mega budget and everything, but it's just like that one day when the conditions are right, the weather is right, the sun is shining at that time of the day, at that phase, you just gotta go and get it, you know. Some lines, you know, you definitely, you know, you seen them and you wanted them, but they're not always ready to be taken.
Does Travis invite you to film with him and the Brain Farm guys?
No, not really. I mean, I meet him, like, for example, on random occasions, but I kind of like backed away from the snowboard industry, like big time, you know, since a long time. I did it, I don't know, 10, 12 years in a row, and I was just ready for something else. I was in the end, I wasn't enjoying riding so much because it was too much in my face, and it was too much. It was just, you know, now when I backed off the whole thing, I have way more motivation because it is my precious hobby, you know. It's my pearl, you know. Like that. This is something special for me that I never want to wear out, you know.
Yeah, I heard about a trip that you were on last year in Sweden.
Yeah, it was in Norway. It was in Norway at Mads area.
Yeah, it sounded like a stacked trip.
Oh yeah, Ranked and Line, and it was awesome. Hawken was there, and a bunch of like new rippers, and yeah.
It must have been nice to go back to riding for yourself after like the pressure of putting together, you know, a snowboard part. I don't think most people even think about all the factors that are involved, like, you know, snow year, snowfall, being in the right place at the right time, you know, injuries.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I was that lucky that I was like, pretty much had like a 10-year straight run without injuries. And then I blew my knee snowmobiling, just, you know, out snowboarding and snowmobiling, and I blew my knee there. And that's sort of like the beginning of the whole break from professional snowboarding. It was a strange time, you know, within the sport. Everything changed, you know, like from us riders leading the market. Snowboarding got that big that snowboarding companies tried to build their own brand and market and just copying different trends, you know. So they kind of got a little bit weak, you know, and the riders sort of like started to disrespect the industry because they were copying stuff that riders didn't respect. So a lot of people kind of like a little bit got upset and like, what the fuck's going on with the industry and all that shit. So, but yeah, back to the question. You know, everybody smiles and laughs when you stomp the trick. And but fucking hell, if you have a bad day, you don't stomp the tricks, and you don't. Then everybody's not so happy, and you're like, you know what, guys? Just shut the fuck up. Like, I'm snowboarding for myself. Your opinion has no value for me. A lot of riders I think a lot of riders, if you don't have that self-esteem to think like that, the industry might break you down, because if you're good, you're good, but if you have a bad day, they might really put you down, you know. Or if you have a bad year, you know, you have a hurting shoulder or something like that, you know, like they don't give a fuck. You know. Some of those years we were trying real hard with the TGR, you know, like being up in Alaska, but we were snowed in for like 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I noticed a shift that seemed to coincide with like the '98 Olympics.
I mean, before FIS went into Olympics and everything, there's a lot of small brands. I mean, I remember doing World Cup competing, and there were like, you know, 40 or 50 different pros riding like small brand companies and all that. But that all went away, and then it became like Salomon, you know, who the fuck, Adidas, who owned like several board brands, and you know, that kind of stuff. So it definitely shrunk, and a big part of the competition scene kind of died down after that whole thing. Because, I mean, FIS was ran by skiers, and ISF, you know, it was like ran by snowboarders. So, you know, the math is pretty simple. It didn't turn out so good. Yeah, I hear about a lot of people who, like, when the competition scene and the career is over, they quit. You know, like if you see like downhill skiing, you know, or like alpine skiing, like, and cross country skiing, when they're saying that, yeah, no, I gotta stop competing now, you know, it's not working out anymore, then they quit. And you're just thinking that, well, I mean, why were you doing it? You know, I think that if you don't have a passion for it, you will not make it that far. You know, if your goal is to be top 10 or this and that, then you know you have different goals. I would say, like in the winter time, northern Sweden, you know, it starts like beginning of November till end of May. And I would say I ride maybe 3 days, 4 days, 3-4 days a week. Maybe not many, sometimes, it's like taking my dog out and hiking up and riding a couple of small runs and so on, but that kind of stuff, like now working with this ski resort, it's sometimes not so much riding, but at least, you get a couple of runs in. But I mean, I would say that maybe the last 10 years, fucking hell, I gotta count my age here. Fucking hell, 10, I would say like maybe the last 10 years I've been snowboarding 90%. The last 10 years, like 90% snowshoeing and fucking walking up and just snowboarding it, everything. That's been the biggest motivation in the last long time. Like it's awesome. I can look at terrain now with the snowboard, and it's like smaller stuff is really challenging, and it's so fun. And that snowboarding has turned into this thing that I gotta hike a fucking 6-7 hour peak to drop in and to get a kick out of it, and snowboarder can do like 1 hour hike and do like 3 runs, and it's and then just the whole thing, the whole snow surfing kind of deal is, it's fun, it's like a never-ending slash, it's not, you never done the perfect slash, especially without binding. It just opens up a whole new game of turning, like use the board, and it's back, it's back to like jigsawing your own like vacuum pressed plywood boards and just messing around with shapes. And I could only imagine Whistler. I was there. I lived in Whistler like 98, I think 99, like that. It was awesome. It was just insane. But I can imagine now, like things are growing, like in all those places, like I also lived in Jackson for like 3 years around that time. It was like, that was before the Whistler days. I was staying with Brian Iguchi and Mike Perillo and those guys in Jackson. A couple of seasons, and then somehow I went up to Canada, and I was just like, hey, this is it. I'm going to stay in BC. Oh yeah, we had sleds. Yeah, my first sled was a triple piped Polaris Storm. It was a fucking heavy motherfucker, but it had some engine. We did a lot of snowmobiling, access hiking, already back then in Jackson days, and with Gooch.
Did you know Dustin Varga?
Oh, I know Dustin. I know Dustin. Fuck yeah, no, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's still killing it in Jackson. It's going off there this year. I see his Instagram all the time. It's fucking nuts.
No way. Well, I gotta dig into Instagram a little bit deeper because I remember Dustin, like just coming by to Gooch and going riding and this and that, and he was like always amped. So fucking big shout out to Dustin for sure. I would say that measurement of a good snowboarding day, it's not about the conditions, it's about how you ride it, and it's not about how the terrain is, it's about how you ride the terrain. I mean, if there's a little bump in the slope, and if you're a creative, you can start just session that shit. Like if you got the skills, you can. There's so many ways to ride the board, and you can carve however you want. It never bores me. There's always something new coming up. Yeah, me and Ingo we're running a ski resort. Me, Ingo, and Jacob, we got this offer 2 years ago, and we were like, well, what the fuck, man? Should we do it? I mean, we haven't hung out for 10 years, so maybe this is our ticket. All right, let's do it. And so here we are. And I live 2.5 hours away from this place, so I can always go home and weekdays and so on. So, but yeah, that's what we're doing now, and it's so much more than we ever thought. You know, we were like, all right, ski resort, let's do it, and it's fucking like we got kitchen, we got cafes, we got bars, we got machine parks and all kinds. So there's a lot of paperwork and office, and there's marketing, and we got a park. It's always kind of going. It's we got big landings built out of dirt. So basically, when we're done, the main slope that we're doing snowmaking in. When the snowmaking is done, also the park is pretty much done. But it's a really friendly park, like kickers with long landings and a few boxes for the kids and rails and stuff like that. So I feel somehow that this is our way to, pay back, give something back to what we kind of got given to us, like now it's our turn to give. Yeah, well, I have a girlfriend and a house and a dog, and there's a baby coming out in maybe a couple of weeks. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. So it's life, it never really slows down quite yet. Thank God to other people's to fire it up. If it was only me, I'd probably still be somewhere snowboarding, living in a shed or whatever, It's like I kind of faded smoothly out of the whole professional thing, because I had a house in Braylorn, and so I went back, when the contracts and all that stuff was over, because I didn't fight for it, I kind of had a chance to come back to it, but I was like, no, you know what, if it's gonna be like this, then I'm over it. And then so I started, just doing work in my hometown in the summertime, just enough so I had money to go over to Canada and just ride 6 months straight. And then after a couple of years of that, 3-4 years, then I was like, well, there is a lot of terrain up here as well, because between Sweden and Norway, mountain range, there is a lot of mountains. There is a shitload of mountains, and there's fucking nobody there. Conditions can be various, but sometimes you stand there, middle of May, knee-deep powder, top of the ridge, 1,900 meters above sea level, and you see the ocean below you. You're like, all right, So I just feel like I need to stay home and get to know my own backyard. Well, there's so much to do. There's so much runs to get, and I mean, I don't have unlimited time to go snowboarding in those places. So it's like every year you figure out, you go to a new zone and check it out. And I don't miss Alaska that much, because I have plenty to do back here, and many runs that I want to do still. And I went back to Alaska there once after the whole thing was kind of over. I went there with a Japanese crew for a pure luxury trip, and it wasn't the same, they were like, well, you got to pick your line now. We were flying out, and I was like, what do you mean? This whole zone looks good. Let's do a little mini golfing and check the snow conditions, and then we do the big line. They're like, no. You got to pick the big line now, because there's five choppers behind us. Like, okay, all right. And within that trip, because of that stressed out situation, people get dropped off in spots that they don't want to be, and it's like an awkward side of a mountain, and of course a whole fucking face, a spider web. One skier of the group got dragged down. I think it was something like 600 4-line meters, and then so we were just bombing down and digging him out, and you know, he was like not responding in the beginning, and so after that I was just like, this is not the same. This is stressed out. Like fuck it. Like, and now also like the whole Heli service community, they invite film groups, but they don't want you to ride the client runs. So you're straight to the fucking lines. But I mean, you want to kind of ride the snow and dig around and kind of get you, and then go to the big stuff, you know. And they're like, no, you stay in this bowl, and you're like, oh fucking, that bowl is like Narnia. Like Jesus Christ, like and a lot of waiting, you know, waiting. Stand there and waiting for the last guide and the tail guide, and then loading, and then there's a tea and a chocolate bar, and then you fly, and it's like, she's trying fucking. I want to go to sleep now. Like, yeah, you gotta come visit, man. Like, come here, and then we go northwest, and then we go riding some good terrain. Let's go.
Big FNRad shout out to Johan Olofsson for doing that interview. What a fucking awesome dude to talk to. It's been dumping here, and I've been just shredding, and I'm going to get back to it. I was up there tonight until 10:30 dropping clips in the dark with Steve and Andy and Blair. It was fucking awesome. Thank you to Grouse Mountain for keeping the lifts running. We'll see you back there at 8:45 tomorrow morning. And we'll see you back here next week for another episode of the FNRad Snowboarding Podcast, brought to you by BR Productions.
Well, I was up in Alaska there one time with him, and we were just like, hey man, are we a little bit over it?